The sky over coastal England has torn open. Inside the Holy Trinity Church in Blythburgh, the congregation huddles together. It is not just a storm, it is an apocalypse. The air itself crackles, thick with ozone in a primal, suffocating fear. They are praying, but they are not praying for salvation. They are praying for the noise to stop. And then, the doors explode inward. It does not bark. It snarls, a sound from the depths of hell. This is Black Shuck. In 1577, the historical accounts, written by a terrified reverend named Abraham Fleming, describe what happened next. The beast, the devil in the likeness of a black dog, rampaged through the terrified crowd. It ran down the aisle, leaping over the pews. It found a man and a boy still kneeling in prayer. It snapped both their necks instantly, drawing the life out of them before they could even rise. As quickly as it appeared, it was gone, vanishing back into the storm. It left behind a church in ruins, a congregation decimated, and something else. Scorched claw marks, burned deep into the wood. Marks that, 450 years later, are still there for anyone to see. This is not a fairy tale. This is not a ghost story told around a campfire. This is a documented historical event, a terrifying mystery etched in fire and stone. East Anglia, the exposed easternmost shoulder of England. For centuries, this landscape of marsh, fog, and isolated coastline has been a place of superstition. It's a land that feels ancient, a land that holds its breath. And for as long as people have lived here, they have whispered about the shadow that stalks these roads. They call it Black Shuck. The name Shuck is old, very old. It's believed to come from the Old English word shuka, meaning demon or devil. And the description, repeated in terrified whispers for 1,000 years, is always the same. He is a dog, but he is impossibly large, the size of a calf, some say a pony. His fur is shaggy and jet black, but his most terrifying feature, the feature that paralyzes all who see it, are his eyes.
It's coming.
Red, luminous. Some say they are like burning coals, others like saucers of fire. To see them is to know you are looking at something not of this world. He is a creature of liminal spaces, the crossroads, the cemetery gate, the coastal path. In most tales, he is a harbinger, a terrifying omen of death. To see him once is a warning. To see him a second time is a death sentence. This is Black Shuck's kingdom, and for hundreds of years it was ruled by fear. But our investigation begins on that single terrible day in 1577, because what happened at Blythburgh also happened miles away on the very same day. 12 miles inland from Blythburgh lies the market town of Bungay. On that very same Sunday, August 4th, 1577, the same supernatural storm was raging. The congregation of St. Mary's Church was also deep in prayer, their hands clasped in terror as the storm shook the very foundations of the building. And just as at Blythburgh, the service was interrupted. Again, the devil in the likeness of a black dog burst in. This was not a separate entity. The accounts describe it as the same beast traveling between the two towns with impossible speed. We know these details because they were not just local gossip, they were published. This is a strange and terrible wonder, a pamphlet written by the Reverend Abraham Fleming. It was printed in London and circulated as breaking news. At Bungay, 2 more were killed. Fleming describes a chilling detail. One of the victims, when his body was turned over, was seen to have been shriveled up like a piece of leather scorched in a hot fire. This was not a simple animal attack. This was elemental. It was fire, brimstone, and demonic power unleashed in the house of God. When the beast fled Bungay, it clawed its way up the steeple, causing it to collapse. The storm, the dog, and the destruction were one and the same. These 2 events, just miles apart on the same day, cemented the legend. This was no longer a vague superstition. Black Shuck was real. He had a name, he had a date, and he had a body count. But the events of 1577 are not the beginning of the story. They are simply the moment the story was first written down. The true roots of Black Shuck are far older and far darker. To find them, we must dig beneath the foundations of the church and into the pagan soil of England itself. Long before England was England, long before the church bells of Blythburgh ever rang, this coast was a gateway. It was the first line of defense and the first land to fall to invaders from across the sea: the Romans, the Angles, the Saxons, and, most fearsomely, the Norse. The Vikings brought with them their gods and their sagas. They brought Odin, the Allfather, a god of wisdom, poetry, and of death. Odin was a storm god, a wanderer, and he was rarely alone. He was flanked by his 2 spectral wolves, Gary and Freki, the ravenous and the greedy. But the Norse also brought a darker legend, a terror of the winter skies. They called it the Wild Hunt. The Wild Hunt was a phantom army, a cavalcade of ghosts and demons that tore across the midwinter sky, led by a spectral hunter. In Scandinavia, that hunter was Odin. To witness the hunt was a terrible omen. It foretold war, plague, or the death of the witness. It was a storm, not of rain and wind, but of souls. East Anglia was a core part of the Danelaw, territory ruled by the Danes. These Norse myths were not foreign, they were local beliefs for hundreds of years. Now look at the legend again. A supernatural entity appearing during a violent storm,
saw the threads
accompanied
of fate,
by terrifying
weaving
howls,
a tapestry of blood
serving as an
and
omen
conquest.
of death.
It comes
Black
at
Shuck
night
is not
when the
just a
storms
dog.
rage.
He is a memory.
A beast of shadow,
He is the last
with
lone
eyes
echo
fire.
of the Wild Hunt, still running when the rest of the Phantom Pack has faded. Then, Christianity came. The new faith built its churches on top of the old pagan holy sites. The old gods became the new devils. Odin, the horned god of the hunt, was rebranded as Satan, and his spectral hounds, his greedy and ravenous wolves, they were demoted to demons. When Abraham Fleming wrote his pamphlet, he called the beast the devil in the likeness of a black dog. He wasn't just being poetic. He was making a direct theological link. The pagan god had been fully transformed into a Hessian Christian hellhound. But the myths of the past need fertile ground to survive in the present. and East Anglia is a landscape built from fear. To understand Black Shuck, you must understand the Fens. For much of its history, this part of England was not the green, pleasant land of postcards. It was a vast, desolate, and dangerous wetland, a mosquito-infested swamp the size of a small country. The people who lived here were isolated, independent, and deeply superstitious. They were cut off from the rest of England. And in this landscape, sensory deprivation is a way of life. Imagine walking these paths at night. The fog is so thick, it muffles all sound. Your world shrinks to a tiny circle of light. Your own mind begins to play tricks. The Fens were famous for a phenomenon known as will-o'-the-wisp or corpse candles, strange dancing lights that would hover over the marsh. We know today this is a natural phenomenon, flammable swamp gas, methane and phosphine, igniting spontaneously in the damp air. But to a terrified traveler in 1750, these bobbing, ethereal lights were the souls of the dead. They were fairies or demons luring you from the path to your death in the bogs. In a land where the earth itself creates phantom lights, is it a surprise that a dark, shadowy figure would be given eyes of fire? The landscape provided the materials. The human mind built the monster. This entire region is also defined by its roads. Black Shuck is, above all, a traveler's ghost. He's seen on Shook's Lane in Overstrand, Shook's Hill in North Pickenham. He walks the Shiode Way or Shuck Way, the ancient corpse roads used to carry the dead to the church. He is a creature of the path, a guardian of the border between the known and the unknown. He is the fear of what lies just beyond the hedgerow, the fear of being lost, and the fear of being found. By the late 19th century, this local, terrifying superstition was about to go global. It would do so through the mind of one man, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. In 1901, while visiting a friend in Norfolk, deep in Black Shuck country, Conan Doyle was told the local legends. He heard the tales of the monstrous black hound, the omen of death, the family curses, and the misty, treacherous landscape. He was particularly captivated by the 17th century legend of Squire Richard Cabell, a famously evil man. The legend said that when Cabell died, a pack of phantom hounds, black with eyes of fire, raced across the moor to howl at his tomb, ready to drag his soul to hell. Doyle fused these legends. He took the East Anglian Hellhound, transplanted it to Dartmoor, and gave it a new name, the Hound of the Baskervilles. It became the most famous Sherlock Holmes story ever written, and it did something profound. It took a local demon and turned it into a global archetype. Black Shuck was the blueprint. He was now the father of every modern phantom dog story. He had escaped the Fens and was now haunting the entire world's imagination. But as the legend grew in fiction, a question remained, buried in the real world. If Black Shuck was just a myth, why did people keep seeing him? And if he was real, where was the body? In 2014, archaeologists were conducting a routine excavation at Leiston Abbey, a medieval ruin just a few miles from the site of the 1577 Blythesborough attack. They were digging in the old kitchen complex, and they found something unexpected. It was a grave, a shallow, hastily dug pit. Inside was the skeleton of a dog. But the lead archaeologist, a man named Brendan Wilkins, knew instantly this was no ordinary dog. The skeleton was immense. It belonged to a male dog, and based on the bones, they estimated it would have stood 7 feet tall on its hind legs. This was a creature that in life would have weighed over 200 pounds, larger than a Great Dane, more robust than an Irish wolfhound. This was, for lack of a better term, a monster. Then came the second shock, the radiocarbon dating. The team analyzed the bones to find out when this beast died. The results were chilling. The dog was buried at exactly the same time as the 1577 attacks. It was buried just miles from Blythburgh, in the middle of the Black Shuck hysteria. The discovery ignited a firestorm. Was this it? The physical proof? The body of the demon? Or was it something even more tragic? Think about it. A supernatural storm. A church collapses. Perhaps from a freak lightning strike. The devil is blamed. In the panic, a mass hysteria. The terrified, superstitious locals need a scapegoat. They hunt for the monster, and they find a very large, very real, and very unfortunate dog. Was this beast dragged to the abbey and ritually killed to appease the heavens? Was it a sacrifice? The skeleton at Leiston Abbey doesn't solve the mystery, it deepens it. It proves that in 1577, the line between myth and reality had blurred completely. People weren't just telling stories about a monster, they were hunting one. You might think this all ended in the 16th century. You might think the invention of the light bulb, of science, of the automobile would kill such a shadow. You would be wrong. The 20th century is filled with hundreds of documented sightings. In 1953, a woman named Mrs. F. was walking home. She heard a panting sound behind her. She turned, and she saw it. It was bigger than any dog I ever saw. It was black, and its eyes, they were like 2 red-hot coals. It followed her, just 10 feet behind, for half a mile. When she finally reached her door and slammed it shut, she fainted. A man named Graham Grant, a baker, was driving his van in the early hours. He saw a huge, shaggy black dog dash in front of his vehicle. He slammed on the brakes. He braced for the impact, but there was no sound, no thud. He got out. The road was empty. The dog had vanished. But he, too, remembered the eyes, like 2 great red lamps. The 1980s, the 1990s, the 2000s, the sightings don't stop. They just adapt. A couple driving near Ockley sees it. The beast is so large its back is level with the car's window. A man in 2007 reports his car passing through the creature like mist. The legend is evolving. The accounts are terrifyingly consistent. The size, the color, the eyes, and one other chilling detail reported again and again. Black Shuck makes no sound. He has no footsteps. He has no bark. The only sound is the howl he lets out after he passes, a sound witnesses say that chills the blood and stops the heart. So, what is going on? 450 years of consistent testimony, a physical body in a grave, a cultural footprint that spans the globe. This is no longer a simple folktale. This is an investigation. And to unmask this monster, we must turn to science. What is Black Shuck? A 450-year-old mystery. A demon that haunts an entire region. In the face of such an enduring legend, superstition is easy. Science is hard. But science is where we must now turn. If Black Shuck is not a demon, what is he? The investigation begins with the most obvious culprit, the misidentification theory. Is Black Shuck just a dog? Advocates of this theory point to breeds like the Irish Wolfhound, bred for hunting. They are gigantic, fast, and have a shaggy, dark coat. A creature like this, seen on a lonely road at dusk, could easily be mistaken for something else. In 16th century England, dogs were functional. They were hunters or they were guards. A massive, stray, or feral dog, perhaps escaped, perhaps suffering from rabies, exhibiting aggressive, erratic behavior, would be a terrifying sight. Rabies, in fact, would explain the slavering and furious nature described in some accounts. But what about the most defining feature? The burning red eyes. Science has an answer for that too. It's called the tapetum lucidum. It's a layer of tissue in the eyes of many nocturnal animals, cats, dogs, deer. It reflects light, allowing them to see in the dark. To a traveler at night, holding a single lantern, or in the 20th century driving a car, the reflection from a large dog's eyes would appear to glow with an intense, otherworldly light. But why red, you ask? The color of that glow can change based on the angle and the minerals in the eye's tissue. While often green or yellow, red is not impossible. More importantly, memory is fallible. A terrified witness, seeing a brief, bright flash and knowing the legend, would remember it as red, the color of the devil, the color of blood. The zoological explanation is neat. It's clean. The 7-foot skeleton found at Leiston Abbey even seems to support it. There were giant dogs in this region at this exact time. It explains everything. Except it doesn't. It doesn't explain the sheer consistency of the size, far beyond any normal dog. It doesn't explain the silence, the lack of footsteps. It doesn't explain the ability to vanish or pass through solid objects. And it doesn't explain the most commonly reported detail of all, the feeling, the crippling, paralyzing, supernatural dread that comes before the sighting. For that, we must leave the lab and enter the human mind. The phantom black dog is not unique to East Anglia. It is everywhere. It's a global archetype, a fundamental part of the human shadow self. In folklore, these creatures are guardians of the underworld, haunting cemeteries and crossroads, the borderlines between our world and the next. In modern psychology, the black dog is a powerful metaphor for the darkness within. Winston Churchill famously called his own crippling depression "my black dog." This isn't just a monster, it's a feeling given form. Now, let's explore a terrifying and very real neurological phenomenon: sleep paralysis. It's the state between wakefulness and sleep. Your mind is conscious, but your body is completely paralyzed. And in this state, you hallucinate. People all over the world report the same hallucination: a terrifying presence in the room, a dark figure, often a hag or a demon, that sits on their chest, suffocating them, filling them with a sense of pure chemical dread. This hypogogic hallucination is the brain's dread and fear circuits firing wildly. Now, imagine you were not in your bed. You are a traveler in 1850 walking a long, misty road. You are exhausted. You are halfway between sleeping and waking. Your brain in this hypogogic state misfires. You are paralyzed by fear. You see a shadow, and your culture, your memory, your primed brain gives that shadow a name. It's Black Shuck. This is the mass hysteria theory writ large. In 1577, what if there was no dog? What if the storm itself, a terrifying, violent electrical event, caused the panic? A steeple collapsed, people died, and in the aftermath, a superstitious, God-fearing populace needed a reason. The devil did it. A shared collective hallucination, a folly at Pelusiers. The mind is powerful. It can create its own monsters. But what if the mind isn't just creating the monster? What if something is helping it? This brings us to our final and most bizarre set of theories. The line where science, geology, and the paranormal blur. Let's return to 1577, to the churches. The accounts describe a strange and terrible wonder. They describe a fiery entity bursting into a stone building, killing people with scorching heat and vanishing, leaving behind the smell of sulfur or brimstone. To a 16th century reverend, that is a demon. To a 21st century plasma physicist, that is a perfect description of ball lightning. It is one of the rarest, most mysterious, and least understood weather phenomenon, a floating, glowing sphere of electrical plasma created during intense thunderstorms. It can be as small as a golf ball or as large as a beach ball. It can be red, orange, or yellow. It can hiss, and it produces a strong smell of ozone and sulfur. It can pass through walls, and it can be fatal if it touches you. Imagine a ball of fire floating down the aisle, running along the pews, wringing the necks of two parishioners with the fatal electrical shock, and then clawing its way out, leaving behind energized scorch marks. What is Abraham Fleming recorded may have been the most accurate, detailed, and terrifying account of a ball lightning strike in history. He just got the culprit wrong. This theory is brilliant. It explains 1577, but it doesn't explain the hundreds of other sightings, the silent, shadowy figures on the road. For that, we need one last piece of the puzzle, a phenomenon you cannot see, you cannot hear, but you can feel. It's called infrasound. It is sound at such a low frequency our ears cannot detect it, but our bodies can. Infrasound is all around us. It's generated by high winds, by the crashing surf of the coast, by certain industrial equipment. And it does very, very strange things to the human body. At a specific frequency, around 19 hertz, the infrasound can cause the human eyeball to resonate, to vibrate. This vibration creates optical illusions, specifically shadowy figures lurking just in your peripheral vision. You turn to look, and there's nothing there. But that's not all. Infrasound physically affects our internal organs. It creates a feeling of dread, a tightness in the chest, a racing heart, the feeling of a presence in the room. Scientists who have studied this haunting frequency found they could artificially induce a state of terror in test subjects just by pumping in sound they couldn't even hear. So, what is Black Shuck? Is he a real dog? Is he a mass hallucination? Is he a freak weather event? Or is he a complex cocktail of infrasound, psychology, and misidentification? The science is compelling. It provides a rational, logical A to B explanation for almost every aspect of the myth. It unmasks the monster and reveals only ourselves. But there is always a but. The rational mind. It is a beautiful, powerful thing. It takes a demon and gives us a diagnosis. It turns a hellhound into a weather report. Science has given us a tidy box. It has explained the rattling in the attic, the shadow in the corner, the fiery eyes in the dark. The case, it seems, is closed. But is it? If Black Shuck is just a cocktail of swamp gas, infrasound, and misidentified dogs, why does he endure? Why, in our modern world of satellites and smartphones, does the story not only survive, but evolve? The legend is changing. For centuries, Black Shuck was simple. He was an omen. To see him meant death. But in the 20th and 21st centuries, a strange new detail has emerged in the sightings. A detail that complicates everything. In many modern accounts, Black Shuck is no longer a killer. He is a guardian. There are stories from all over East Anglia, stories of the great black dog appearing before a lost traveler and silently guiding them back to the safety of the path. Stories of women walking home alone at night who feel a large, dark presence pacing them, only to realize it was keeping other shadows at bay. The myth has adapted. He has transformed from a devil dog into a genius loci, a spirit of the place. He is no longer just a monster in the landscape. He is the landscape. He is the wild, untamable soul of East Anglia itself, reminding us that the land is ancient and that we are only temporary guests. So we ask one final time, what is Black Shuck? The truth is that he is all of it. He is not one simple thing, and that is the secret to his power. He is a composite entity, a perfect 450-year-old storm. He is historical memory, the echo of Odin's wolves and the terror of the 1577 storm seared into the cultural DNA. He is natural phenomena, the freak physics of ball lightning, the eye shine of an animal, the geological whisper of infrasound, all conspiring to create a single, terrifying illusion. He is psychological archetype, the black dog of our own fears, the shadow self given form, the nightmare of sleep paralysis walking out of our bedrooms and onto the road. And he is physical reality, the 7-foot skeleton in a shallow grave, a beast that did walk this earth, whose memory may have been the seed that started it all. You can debunk one of these pillars, but the others stand. You can prove the skeleton is just a dog, but you cannot explain the ball lightning. You can explain the ball lightning, but you cannot explain the shared global archetype of the dread it creates. Black Shuck survives because he is built on every foundation of our reality. Perhaps we need him. In our modern world, we have done everything in our power to banish the dark. We have lit our streets, mapped our globe, and explained our fears away. We have built a world of plastic, glass, and processed data, a world without shadows, and we have never felt more lost. Black Shuck is a reminder. He is the shadow that proves the light exists. He is the primal, growling heart of the wild, reminding us that not all roads are mapped, not all storms can be predicted, and not all darkness is empty. The accounts from 1577 say the beast left, but they never say that he died. The skeleton in the grave may be a hound, but it is not the hound. He is still out there. He is the protector, and he is the destroyer. He is the guardian at the crossroads and the omen of the grave. So, if you ever find yourself on a lonely road in the east of England, When the mist rolls in and the sun begins to die, and you feel a sudden, unexplainable chill, a tightness in your chest, and you hear a sound just behind your footsteps, a soft, heavy panting. Do not be afraid. Just keep walking and pray. He is only there to guide you.